All right, welcome back to the Linux Clinic podcast. We're here not in the Linux Media Clinic. We're actually at the Gas Digital Studio, guys, here in New York. And I have a very special guest with me today. Are we recording? We good? Awesome. Heck yeah. So Spaghettijesus is the guest on the podcast today. We're going to talk about visuals. We're going to be talking about music. We might go deep into some more stuff. So we're just going to see how it goes. So Spaghetti. How are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you doing, man?
I'm well. Traffic in New York isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it is Sunday, so maybe it's a little lighter and stuff like that. And I don't know. Lexington's traffic is pretty shitty. So I feel like I kind of got accustomed to driving around traffic on like a manual transmission car, and it wasn't too bad. But the movies make it look like shit. Anyway, I just want to talk about first go into the visual aspect of what you do and what we kind of do and talk about how we got into that, because I feel like whenever I did visuals, nobody knew what it was, like people would walk up and be like, man, what the heck is that? You got like a bunch of weird ass equipment. You look like you're inside like a spaceship or something like that. Got a bunch of knobs and levers and buttons and shit and stuff blinking and glowing and feedback happening.
The whole thing.
Yeah, it just looks
the whole
like
9 yards.
Exactly. It looks like you're inside like a spaceship. So I just wanted to know, how did you get into that? Because I'm going to go in kind of how I got into it later, but I just want to know, what pushed you into the rabbit hole of visual art?
Well, I would say that it kind of started with, the mask is coming off. The mask just doesn't want to be
It's the kaiju
on.
mask. We just have to shout it out. That's the
Godzilla
mask.
Yeah, it's a burning Godzilla.
Yeah. So
but yeah, when I started getting into visuals, it really started with listening to a bunch of psych rock bands and noticing that all of those bands had these
live visual
wild
stuff.
Yeah, all these wild live visual projections or artists working with them.
Yeah, almost like collaboration, kind of almost as a part of the band and something like that.
Yeah, almost like that visual artist isn't so much as just their visual artist as he is the sixth or fifth or eighth or 12th band member. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
because a lot of these bands with visual artists seem to tend to have more than 5 members.
For sure. It's not like, a 3-piece playing rock and roll usually doesn't have a giant visual crew or something like that.
Yeah, but now it's you've got all these 12 pieces that have visual crews, and it's what
giant ensembles and stuff.
Yeah.
So what got you into actually getting the hardware, or maybe you started in the digital realm? But what got you into actually trying to tinker with gear, analog or whatever, to actually try to make some shapes, make some colors and stuff? Because I know we talked a while back, and you said you had a DIY DIY video mixer. I don't know if that was a Carl Klomp circuit.
Yeah, it was a Carl Klomp circuit.
Yeah. So what was that? Was that just a basic Carl Klomp? Because I know people go deep into that. They'll power them. They'll throw, you know what I mean? Throw a 9-volt battery in there, put a couple more potentiometers, some buttons and stuff, or was it just your basic?
My 2 friends and I soldered it together.
Yeah.
And we just went and bought a bunch of female RCA and a bunch of cable.
Heck yeah.
And just kind of went at it. I ordered a potentiometer online. That was $12, and then I ordered a pair of switches. And we just kind of we learned that a lot of the diagrams online don't show you really everything.
Dude, there was actually, now that you mention that, I remember I was looking into a Carl Klomp diagram, and the guy had just taken it down months before I was looking into it, and there was threads about it and stuff, and it was weird because as it was getting popular, I was realizing this stuff was out there. I didn't know this world existed. So I'm getting into this. I'm oh, dirty video mixers, Carl Klomp, YouTubing shit. And then he put his PDFs for sale. He's yeah, I took them off a public forum and they're now for sale. And I searched for the longest fucking time but couldn't find it. This man sat there and wiped the internet of his PDFs because I think it was actually Carl Klomp himself or something like that. And he was just yeah, I'm I got to sell this shit. I got to make some money off it, which
wild.
I respect. You know what I mean? That's his schematic. That's his circuit. He was the guy that sat there and got this shit. Probably had a breadboard to where he just experimented with it and was oh shit, that works. He, maybe a digital engineer or something, and on his free time he did that. So I can kind of see, why he would do something like that. But let's talk a little more about how you got into that. Because I mean, it's one thing to watch a YouTube video or follow a DIY channel on Instagram or follow visual people and then it's another thing to actually go out and get the gear, get a projector, haul that shit to a fucking music venue, hang it up, you know what I mean, and like actually pursue that. So like, what got you to try to pursue that as like a passion or a career, dare I say?
2 years ago, in 2018, I saw King Gizzard for 2 nights.
Oh yeah, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Brooklyn Steel in Brooklyn, New York. And I just saw Jason Galia, their visual artist, doing his thing, and I was
Shouts
so
out to him.
fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And at one point, I noticed the camera pointed at the stage. I was like, "Oh, that's really brilliant."
So you actually like sat there and like, because dude, King Gizzard shows are wild. I don't know if you were in the middle of like the pit or something.
So
but,
the
like,
first night
you
I was
just,
in
like,
the pit.
Okay,
But
you,
then
like,
the
found
second
him.
night, I went and kind of, well, I didn't even mean to find him. I just
just
wandered to
stumbled
the
upon
back,
him.
and I noticed him, and I'm like, "Oh, it's Jason."
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
awesome, dude. Because I love King Gizzard. You know what I mean? So, I feel like their visual aspect really drives their live performances. So you'd say like after that King Gizzard show, you were like, damn, I gotta get some gear. Or...
Well, I had the Carl Klump already
Oh,
built.
okay, heck yeah.
Like I had already kind of taken an avid interest because of like seeing his stuff online.
Yeah, just like through the internet and stuff.
But the in-person like experience, my immediate reaction was going and buying like a bunch of video gear.
Yeah.
And like starting to kind of get serious about it. I did a couple shows starting off at like local venues, and then sort of just like worked from there.
And how did that go? Did you like just email the venues and you were like, hey, I do visual art, or I'm a projection artist? Because I feel like that is very important for people out there trying to pursue this. If they have these local venues or maybe even like museums and fuck, I forgot the name of them, like places that have like fucking art exhibits and stuff, and they'll have like pop-up art exhibits, and you know, you could apply for like grants at music festivals to do art installations. So like I want to talk about that. Like, how did you start trying to, you know, pursue that, you know, hitting up music venues? You know, what was that process like for you?
So that started off with just, I booked like my first like 5 or 6 shows, and then from there kind of used those as a way to like build a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, kind of like a little portfolio, like this is what I do live, or something like that.
Well, also some of them did really well.
Nice.
Yeah, which was really cool. And so it brought out like different bands would find me
Exactly.
and would hit me up
It's like
for stuff.
the most natural, like, you know, rock and roll side of that, to where like you go out to a live show and people see it, they're like, oh shit, that's cool, and you know, you start networking and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy how far it's sort of like traveled since then.
Yeah.
Because I started off doing it on very small scale, just like at my mom's house, like in the basement with just like a little CRT,
Yeah.
and like an MX1 and a circuit bent Videonics title maker that I bought for like a little under $200, which was
Yeah.
cool, and just was making feedback that didn't really like, I wasn't trying to go anywhere with it. It was just sort of like
Just you're
I would
having
just
fun.
make I would just make these things and keep discovering like new stuff. And I started playing around with like colored lighting gels, which the studio does
Yeah, they
not
got
have them, but they do
Yeah.
have some cool lighting.
Yeah, I
going
mean, they
on.
definitely, you could put the gels on them.
Yeah, you could attach.
These are nice
gels to
lights.
These are very
a lot
nice
nicer than the
lights.
ones at the Linux Media Clinic.
Yeah, I can't even speak. I have just like a couple painter's lights. Like,
Yeah, so I kind of want to talk about that, because I don't know if like people out there, if you guys don't know about like video feedback, but I feel like that's the door to this realm.
yeah,
Because you know who Robert Beatty is?
yeah, I know Robert Beatty, the artist.
Yeah. So he's actually from the same. I'm not from that town. I wasn't born there, but the city I live in right now, Lexington, Kentucky. He's actually resides there, and he's worked on like Tame Impala album covers. He's done like really big like Pepsi ad campaigns and stuff like
Stonefield.
that. Yeah, he did Stonefield.
Or did he?
Did he?
No, that was Jamie Zhu.
Oh, true. Well, I know he did Tame Impala, and then he did some other
Oh, he's
good
done
ones.
OCs.
OCs. Yeah, Orc. No, not Orc.
Yeah, he did.
Was
do
it Orc? Yeah, that's true.
He
It was
did
Orc.
He did Orc, but he also did weird exits, and he did odd entrances, and he did another one recently.
Yeah, dude. And the wild thing about that album is like I went to an OCs show and I was like, this is Orc music. before he dropped that album, I was like, this is orc music. Like he'd be like, rah, rah, you know, and just like the crowd is all jumping up and down, like chanting. It's almost like a pagan kind of like dance chant. Everybody knows like the words of the song kind of, but it's like he doesn't even really sing the song. So it's like, ah, yeah. And you know what I mean? You know how John Dwyer sings. So it's like everybody's chanting along with that. And I was like, this is very like orcish. And then he drops this orc album, and I was like, "Oh shit!" You know, I was like,
Yeah,
"Yep."
'cause
Exactly. I was like,
he's channeling the orcs. He's
yeah, I know
channeling
exactly,
some like
dude.
weird like I don't even know how to describe that stuff. It's like weird acid Lord of the Rings rock.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
it's so out there.
It's that's exactly what it would be. I feel like King Giz is almost like Bilbo Baggins and stuff like that. Like sometimes, you know what I mean? Because I saw King Gizzard first, and uh, I think I saw him right before Flying Microtonal. No, I saw him right as they dropped Flying Microtonal Banana. So it was like Rattlesnake, Flying Microtonal Banana, Billabong Valley, one of my favorites off that. Rattles me, rattle, rattle, rattle. Dun, 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 dun. So like that, just like everybody chanting that in the crowd, and I was like, I went and saw that, and they played half a set of Mycotonal and the other half of like Nonagon, because people were like, we have to hear Robot Stop. You know what I mean? Like you can't drop an album like Nonagon Infinity, and then they drop Flying Microtonal Banana, and it's like they have to play that material live. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
they'd start playing Robot Stop, and the crowd would go so fucking nuts.
I saw a show where they didn't play Robot Stop, and I was
They
like,
started
whoa.
not to play it because, dude, like they'd start to play it. They would go so nuts, and it was like a smaller music venue, and Stu would be like, "Oh shit," and you'd kind of like dial it down, and you know what I mean, like, you know what I mean, just kind of like dial it down. I was like, "Oh shit," like because I saw them a handful of times. So I went and followed them around a little bit. So I was like, oh, I got to like see the process of how they react to the crowd and how the crowd reacts to them, and it was, you know, like they're really, I don't know, they get the energy up, like you said, they're like channeling something, you know,
And then when it gets too crazy, they're like, okay, we gotta dial it back.
yeah,
Let's get really jazzy now.
yeah, and they're like, okay, drop fucking sketches and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you see them perform with the Mild High Club live?
Oh, I didn't get to see that. I saw them perform. In 2019 at Central Park. With
Was that
Orb and-
outdoor
Yeah, that
venue?
was Orb and Stonefield.
Oh yeah, I saw that lineup too whenever they came.
That was a
through
really cool
Cleveland or
lineup.
something. Yeah, that was awesome because that was right before Orb and Stonefield like really kind of quote unquote blew up, which was partially in part of, you know, because they were touring with Giz and stuff, and Giz was getting all this attention and stuff. But seeing them like in that moment was really cool. Just like back to back lineup, like, oh, I've been listening. Like this is my YouTube playlist, you know, and like now I'm watching it live, and it was just such a great experience to be able to see that. Flightless Records, I don't know, they're doing good shit out there, you know, they know what they're doing. They're signing good bands and stuff. I want to kind of talk about like a little further into the experience of like, I don't know, because a lot of people go to these shows, you know, and a lot of people probably experience these different things and get inspired by this, but not everybody wants to pursue it. And it's almost like it's a craft, like anything else. You know, you could like, you know, if you can make like wooden tables like this, and you know you're a craftsman. But there's something about like making something out of nothing in the visual realm, and like, you know, making some feedback that's like hypnotic and stuff like that, and like really trying to dive deep into. Maybe, I don't know if you look into this, but I've been looking into it a little bit, like how to like subconsciously trying to, you know, like do your visuals and get like points across subconsciously and work with the artist to be like, all right, so what's the lyric in this song? Like, okay, I'm gonna think about that as I'm doing this visual or as I'm making the visuals, or maybe like creating feedback or something like that. I don't know if it's as simple as like your intent and trying to put that in the into the visuals, or it might even be like I've looked into a few patents by like the U.S. government and like the CIA after the Freedom of Information Act. They like released a bunch of patents, and like, damn, they could damn near like control somebody's mind with like a digital generator that would create like a infrasonic frequency. So it's like, you know what the brown note is?
Yeah, I know the brown note.
Yeah. So like for some reason, whenever I saw those Giz shows, I was like, Jason might be experimenting with some shit like that. Because there's also the a gent light therapy that will I think a coder from Silicon Valley took a hit of acid and said, "Fuck this! I'm going to the mountains of Tibet and becoming a monk." And he took all of his knowledge and went and created this thing called a gent light therapy, and it's supposed to like pretty much lights like these, and he like programs a certain program, and it like flashes lights, and it's supposed to induce DMT in like a state of DMT. And I was like, you know, I'm like, is he experimenting with some stuff like that? He might be. I don't know what his educational background is. I don't know if he went and like studied engineering at some college or some shit and was like, hey, figured this out, you know, like I'm just gonna do this. I don't know, but have you looked into anything like that, you know, to where it's not just like the visual aspect of it, but like really getting deep into it? Like, all right, like how are we gonna, you know, pretty much circuit bending brains out there?
Yeah, I would say that from my experience with working with different bands, it's come in different waves. There's been bands who want just, you know, very surface level visual aspect, which I could still appreciate.
Something cute and
You know,
poppy, yeah, which
they
is
w-
like that's always good.
yeah, they want something just on there that gives it a bit more of a flair or a pop, or just maybe gives the video a bit more color.
Yeah.
And then there's bands like Frankie and the Witch Fingers,
Yes.
who want narratives and want these like fleshed out worlds and stories. And so, well, and not even that so much that they want it as much as like their music demands it.
It's like they have to have that.
Yeah, like I've been listening to like their past two albums. Well, their newest record, which I can't say too much about, but it's out. It's already been announced.
True. Oh, so is it like, is all the audio out already?
Yeah, not the audio's out. I can't say
Oh,
anything
okay,
about what
okay.
songs
Okay, yeah.
or anything.
That's awesome. We got some
Um,
inside information here, guys, at the Linux Cleaning Podcast.
But I've just been listening to like those past two records and trying to come up with like how an album movie would work for each,
Yeah.
and how they would like tie together, especially with the record right now. There's a lot of artists making different videos for it, so it's kind of all coming together from different places.
Yeah.
But to answer more of your question, I totally blanked what your question was.
Oh, I was just saying, like, have you ever looked into like?
Oh, just
that-
like getting deeper with like
yeah,
the band's
like no. Well, I'm saying like
imagery.
some like I don't know, some borderline woo woo shit. You know, like some borderline like trying to subconsciously get people to just like, okay, this is about to be a hype song. Let's see if my visuals can like, you know, project my visuals to help induce this state of excitement, help induce a state of maybe calmness during a jazzy song, or help induce you blah 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 whatever. And it's like,
That usually comes with colors, and my natural instinct, if I'm doing like a live set and I'm doing just like different visuals and I have to kind of keep changing it up each song, I have a very basic kind of like pattern set I like to go with during
Yeah.
shows, and then I'll kind of push those depending on where the music goes.
yeah,
Because I've gotten to this point now where I'm just tossing a flat screen television around underneath an overhead projector, and
yeah.
it just looks like, I don't know, like digital liquid, like light oil stuff.
Yeah,
kind
I've
of.
experimented with a little bit like that. I would get a camera and I'd just like turn the tripod down, and I'd put like a monitor like down on my rack and just like spin it around, and then like move it around kind of like a liquid light pan. But I'm using like a LCD screen that is, you know, creating feedback.
Yeah.
And I'm just like sitting there like waving it around, and I've done some pretty cool stuff with that. And you said something that was pretty good, and I feel like you answered my question with that. But the color aspect, which whenever I asked this question, I didn't really think about that. But of course, like, you know, like colors definitely, like if you have like flashing red, that's gonna, you know, induce people, or like cause people to just get a little more on edge and like, all right, let's jump around, maybe get hype, you know, get wild. And then like blue and deeper and darker colors can definitely like, you know, bring people down and mellow them out and stuff like that. So that's like, I didn't even really think about that, but that's definitely like surface level stuff that I was just subconsciously doing. I'm like, all right, here's a rock and roll song, just red strobe, you know, red and black and orange and stuff like that whenever the crowd's moshing, whatever. And then I just like naturally dial it down whenever the music dies down. But have you ever heard of that kind of stuff, of like the agent light therapy, or any of those kind of techniques?
I haven't heard of those.
Yeah.
I've been just getting and more into like the synthesia between music and visual, and like where the point where the line becomes so blurred between what's music and what's visual,
Yeah.
where they're kind of just meshed like super organically together.
Yep.
Um, it's definitely something I want to keep exploring in the future and trying to figure out like, because there's a I wouldn't say that there's a formula to it, but there's definitely a way of doing visuals and doing music videos where if you have it like syncopated to the music in such a way that it's constantly kind of like riding along with the music, that has a very good flow to it, and I think it adds a lot of, I don't know, the audience stops perceiving it as visuals and a band, and they start just seeing it as one like cohesive experience.
Yeah, audio
Yeah.
visual experience. Yeah, that's awesome. Cause I want to talk a little bit about like I don't know if you have, but like lately I've kind of been looking at stuff like, do you know who Oliver Tree is?
Yeah, I know who Oliver Tree is.
Yeah, so this man like memed his way to, I think, Warner Brothers or like Atlantic Records or something.
Did he?
Yeah, he memed his way to like a $5 million contract with a major record label, and then he came out. He's like, "Yeah, I just fooled their asses, and who else would give me $5 million to make music videos?" He's like, "I want to direct movies. Nobody else would do it, so I memed my way into the music industry, and like his music videos are awesome. Like
I
he
really
does,
like his song Alien Boy.
yeah. Have you seen any of his music videos?
I've seen that music video.
Yeah, that's dude. He does like his own stunts and stuff, and he'll have like, it's not really psychedelic. I wish he would do a little more psychedelic stuff, but he said that he was in a jam band, so I could see like being in a jam band, getting burnt out on like psychedelic shit, and then like,
Yeah.
not even want to associate with that culture musically. But he's definitely a pop artist. But his music videos, he'll have like some special effects and visual effects. You know what I mean? To where it's like, it's so like low key that it kind of just flows with the music video, makes it seem a lot more realistic. And of course, he does like crazy stunts because he used to be like a professional scooter or some memey shit like that. But I don't know. Like, have you ever thought about doing stuff like that, more like cinematic directing music videos like that?
I mean, that's sort of what I'm doing right now with some of the claymation.
Yeah.
They're starting to take on a very cinematic form. The one I just did with Frankie has a very almost 16 millimeter, like 70s, like cosmic horror film
Yeah.
atmosphere to it.
Like
That's kind of
grainy
cool.
and
Yeah, grainy, but also like really crisp and quick.
nice.
And the shots are constantly moving. I don't think there's really a single frame in there where nothing is moving.
Yeah.
Everything moves in that video, which was crazy.
So it's just like all kind of has like motion and like feel to it and stuff.
Yeah, everything has like an immersive quality
Nice.
where like I don't know. I'm trying to get to a point, especially with claymation and music videos, where maybe you start forgetting that it's claymation.
Yeah, I know. I was looking into like older claymation guys, and they're like old Russian dudes that were doing it like way back in the day, and like just I don't know. It's all like claymation, just so wild, like the way it flows and everything like that. And I kind of get what you're saying, but I mean, I feel like I'd never be able to do that. Like you're definitely getting there, you know what I mean? But that's like awesome. I can't wait to see like what's in store on this next Frankie album and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's
there's
gonna be
gonna be
awesome.
some cool stuff.
Yeah. Let's talk about a little like maybe influences that you had back in the day, maybe as a child, because I know you're into like the whole kaiju aesthetic and stuff like that, you know. So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, like what inspired you to kind of get into that, what maybe even cartoons, because I know a lot of cartoons inspire me visually and stuff and what I'm trying to accomplish, and even musically. Like I didn't realize, but Rugrats, the soundtrack is all curated by Mark Mothersbaugh of Devo. And I'm like, I became a
Really?
Devo fan like afterwards, and I was like, oh, I've been listening to Devo my whole fucking life without knowing it, you know? And
Mark
it's
Mothersbaugh did the Thor Ragnarok soundtrack.
did he really?
Yeah,
That's
he
awesome.
did.
Yeah, he does a lot of good stuff, and it's
Yeah, he
just like
does excellent stuff.
yeah. So like I've been consuming this man's music for the longest time, but didn't know that it was him. And I was like, oh, Devo's fucking awesome. And I was like, oh, I've been listening to this. So what's like maybe some cartoons, Japanese animation or something like that, and maybe some old school music from back in the day, or maybe even some like most recent stuff that you feel like maybe you're not working with them, you know what I mean? It's like not a part of your like portfolio. You're not making a video for them, but like they're still inspiring you to like maybe not even visually. It might even be like you know, just a song or something like that. Like what do you think you like to pull inspiration from to kind of create your visuals and create your kind of aesthetic?
Well, so lately I've been really pulling from this one avant-garde filmmaker that I like. This Japanese avant-garde filmmaker, Shinya Sukamoto.
I will not be able to say that. I don't think I'll ever be able to spell that, but yeah.
Yeah, Shinya Sukamoto is
Shinya Sukamoto.
the director of a film called Tetsuo the Iron Man.
I'm gonna have to, yeah, Tetsu the Iron Man. That's
It's a black and white experimental late 80s cyberpunk body horror action
heck yeah.
stop motion. I don't even know how to
You
really
had me at
describe it.
cyberpunk, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I've been kind of pulling from that a little bit lately. More surreal kind of ambient imagery, more David Lynch kind of uncanny valley sort of stuff with the claymation. But then in terms of stuff that like I grew up on, you know, of course kaiju, but then like cartoons, like I mentioned it outside before, Dino Riders. I think of Dino Riders a lot actually, and I kind of want to do something. Today inspired it. When I get home, I'm gonna somehow do animation with like things riding on top of bigger things.
Heck
We'll
yeah.
we'll
It's
see
like
what it ends up
riding
being.
monsters and shit.
Monsters riding monsters.
Yeah.
People
Orcs
riding
orcs.
monsters.
Yeah.
Orcs riding people.
A people monster. Create a giant dragon with a bunch of people in the back riding it. How hard, like, whenever you create that stuff, has there been times that like you'd be like halfway through a figure that's taken you like maybe weeks to do and you like drop that shit? Like, has that ever happened?
More than I want to admit.
So what was the worst one? They're like, how long did you take to work on the figure?
Oh,
And how
okay.
fast
There was this one from an OC's video, and I had finished it, like using it for one video, and I was about to use it for another video. I dropped it on his face, and here's the funniest thing: its face got malformed in such a way that it actually ended up looking angrier in the video.
In the video? Dude, that's awesome.
He's
So
kind of
like,
scary looking.
yeah, it like morphed his face a little bit and gave it a little cool effect.
He's just like
He's just like kind of squinting.
he's like "Rrr,"
Awesome. So like
like a pug.
like a pug. How about pug? Didn't they come from Mongolia? Pretty sure.
I'm not an expert on this.
I'm pretty sure this might be bro science, but pretty sure pugs come from Mongolia, and they were like royalty dogs. Which no. This is all bro science. You know what, guys? Don't quote me on this, but I just like to picture a pug sitting next to fucking Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan or something, and he's like,
Genghis Khan.
yeah, he's just like petting them, and they're all just like,
He's like, me and this pup will take over the
Exactly.
entire country.
he's like the guy from Inspector Gadget with the fucking cat. but it's
Oh,
just a
Claw.
pug. Yeah, the Claw.
I think it's Dr. Claw.
Dr. Claw.
Maybe I'm wrong. Don't quote me on that.
Dr. Eggman.
I don't know. Dr. Eggman's from Sonic though.
Yeah. Dude, do you remember that the Sonic movie that they tried to make?
Oh, they did make the Sonic movie.
I know, but do you
though.
remember whenever they came out like the first?
Oh yeah, the
guy-
first trailer and the CGI on Sonic was horrible.
Dude, it was
like,
so funny how
atrocious.
everybody just like, yo, this is not acceptable, and they were like, yeah, you're right, we'll go back and work on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, right. I
The
wish we
people have
could do that for
spoken,
everything.
right? And it's like they listened to us for this shitty live action Sonic remake, but
Apparently, it took them like 10 years to listen to us about Transformers. The last Transformers movie is probably the like only one that I think is redeemable in any sense of
really,
the word.
like the most recent one.
Yeah, Bumblebee.
Mm.
Bumblebee is based like entirely off of the 80s like line of Transformers. Like
Yeah,
that
because
whole
those
design
cars,
period.
those cars, they looked a lot different than most of the cars in the movies and stuff. And I don't even know if some of them, like, there were probably a lot of like product placement deals going on too. You know what I mean? Because
But also like Megatron and Starscream looked like dumpster fires in the 2007 Transformers movie.
throwing shots at whoever did that.
Michael Bay.
Fuck
throwing
you, Michael
shots-
Bay.
Fuck you,
Stick
Michael.
to explosions, you asshole.
Give me
Not
more
good at
romantic
robots.
subplots that are well developed. Stop giving me bullshit.
So I kind of want to talk about like it's kind of hard not to, but like all the shit that's going on right now politically.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, because in Lexington, like the
Open up the
protests,
floodgates, everybody.
open up the floodgates, and the protests didn't get too like they were peaceful. Like there was maybe one like trash can, like one car stepped on. There was like some dumb shit going on like between
mean,
the people, but
Honestly,
I don't know how
like
like
some of that stuff, it's been very much like inferred that a lot of it is caused by like third party influences.
oh yeah.
I'm not throwing shade at anyone. I'm just saying a
Jeff
third.
Bezos, right? He's the one out
No,
there funding this shit.
no, let's not. um, no. Now I lost my train of thought. Here,
Do you think no? But what do you
Back to
think?
you.
Do you think Antifa is funded by Jeff Bezos, or do you think that's just a meme conspiracy?
I won't
Speaking of
confirm or
Mr.
deny any
Dr.
meme conspiracies here.
Yeah, I mean we'll just leave it at that.
We'll just leave it at that. We'll just say, hey, it exists. It's out there. It's there.
But how bad did it get here? Like were people? Because I know the sad thing about like the protests is that there were a lot of people trying to like take advantage of it, and they're like, oh, people are starting to break into shit. Like yeah, let's go steal shit, you know? And I'm like. Like I did a few live streams on it, and there was this guy that was like pulling like a Gucci jacket off of like this giant contraption that they had, and it was like almost essentially a giant bike lock with a bunch of wires that they like hook on these designer jackets whenever they close up shop, and like he was just sitting there and like smacking a wire against the ground trying to like break it to take this designer clothes, and I was like, dude, like what are you doing? Like if you're gonna do that, go get bolt cutters, but you're making everybody look bad. Like don't like. I feel like it was definitely hijacked by people just trying to take advantage of all like the public chaos and stuff. And they're like, oh, I'm gonna go steal this, or I don't know, like if there's some underlying threat of people trying to like overthrow America and stuff. But it definitely feels like it went from being about Black lives to just destroying America real quick. Like I fucking woke up at 4th of July and my Instagram was just like covered in feeds like America's bullshit, and I was like. Yeah, like 4th of July, I'm like, you know, I'm not walking around with an American flag and being like, woo! But I'm like, I don't know, dude. I like America. Like, my parents are, you know, two Ukrainian people that moved here not knowing a lick of English, you know, and they got here legally and, you know, they both started businesses and, like, built lives for themselves to where they could raise children and, you know, in America. And I feel like it's probably better than if they stayed in Ukraine or in Russia. So, I don't know. I'm like... What do you think about that? Like, do you think that it was just naturally because at the end of the day, a capitalist system, like you're sitting there incentivizing people to do shit based on money, and then like after a while, people are just gonna be like, "Fuck, like I'm tired of this," and then like the money doesn't really even like help or something, and it's just like people don't even know what they want at the end of the day. It kind of seems like there's just a bunch of people like going getting their anger out during a protest, you know. So I don't know, like, what kind of vibes do you feel? Maybe in this city or whatever city you were in, like were people focused on police brutality and trying to, you know, fight for Black lives, or were they any like just people trying to sit there and hit a lick or two?
So I went to a protest. I won't specify when or where. I'm not gonna state it. I actually put on my mask.
Allegedly, you went to a protest.
Allegedly, I went to a protest.
This is for entertainment purposes only.
And allegedly, I saw trash cans on fire and windows getting broken and bus stop like glass signs getting like shattered in, and the TVs that are usually playing stuff on tops of cabs that are like parked, and like any of the like stands, you know what I'm talking about, especially if you're going through Manhattan, you see all those TVs that are playing like ads for shows and detergent and whatever, but a bunch of those getting smashed in. People looting clothing stores. People looted it in Adidas. The mask is coming off again. It's just not going to stay on anymore. It's done. It's good.
We don't got Rones in this studio.
I saw a lot of stuff go down, and I kind of was just like, huh. I don't know how to feel about this. It was very just like...
people taking advantage of it and just like...
Well, there got to be this point where, like, the fires and everything, I was like, holy shit, this is real. This is, like, actually real.
Yeah, it's like the city's burning, guys.
I was like, damn, like, 2 hours ago we were having a peaceful protest, and now
Yeah.
like there's just garbage burning in the street.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm glad that like I didn't have to like or I didn't experience anything that wild, you know, because like I said, the city I was in was pretty, you know, peaceful. Like nobody really did anything. As soon as somebody tried to do something, they like people called them out. They're like, "Yo, man, like quit. Like we're here to fucking to just protest and stuff and like pick that up, pick your trash up and go home if you're going to be like that." And like there was some of that going on and I was like, "Okay, this is cool." But dude, it was so weird. Like in the midst of all that, there was like rumors of like bricks just being like, you know, showing up around cities and stuff like that, and like
Yeah, that
no
was
construction
weird.
being in the area. And they're like, "Oh, there's a pallet of bricks," you know, like that stuff's weird. And it might be as like as simple as like an angry tradesman, you know what I mean? He just lost a fucking contract on this giant government building he was building, and he's like, "Oh, these fucking assholes, I'm gonna make them pay," and just leaves a pallet of bricks right before, you know, a protest. But it might be something more nefarious. So that's why I was like participated in it, and then I like realized I'm like, guys, this, you know, there's no real direction. There was just like people just going out and just, you know, just trying to break shit and trying to like pretty much induce anarchy, which I was like, I don't know if that's the way to solve this. Like there's a very like fuck it, burn it down, we'll rebuild it later kind of mentality. And it's kind of what I was talking about with like the 4th of July thing, like, "Oh, America, fuck this." And I was like, I don't know if that's the right way to approach it, because at the end of the day, we still live on this land. You know, we could fucking definitely figure something out without burning down all the architecture and everything. The boomers can go, but the architecture has to stay.
I mean, some of the architecture can go.
Yeah, definitely some of it.
We don't need Chris Columbus as like a bronze statue. We just don't need that. Like it doesn't need.
But the thing that
He didn't really do anything though.
Yeah, I mean,
he was just a marauder.
but I just think like trying to some of that stuff. It's like there was a guy that died by trying to he was fucking toppling a statue and it fell on him and killed him.
Oh shit!
That's like I don't know what, like that's pretty, like that's ironic
That's
as fuck.
intense.
Yeah, but it's like imagine that happening. Like, was it worth it, bud? You know, like he's like, "Ooh, fuck this guy," and then giant concrete statue falls on him and now
Yeah.
he's dead. And it was like, I guess that guy killed one more dude. You know, it's like, okay, I don't know, but it's really weird and that kind of stuff. And I just feel like the more we try to ignore a history, the worse it can get, you know, because
Yeah,
it's just going to
that's-
repeat itself. Like, we have to look at that and we have to be like, yo, you know, maybe the problem with that is they're literally on a pedestal, you know, like they're literally a statue on a pedestal. So, like, yeah, it's like we shouldn't be doing that, but we should definitely like be explaining to younger generations, like, oh, this is that guy. This is what he did. Like, yeah, he fucked up. He didn't really like, you know, other people that weren't from his tribe, so to speak. So it's like, you know, we definitely, people have this tribal mentality. And I feel like sports plays into that. You know, that's why sports are so big. That's why like people need sports, because you know they have to have a team and you have to have that like feeling to where they're connected to something. And I feel like that for a lot of people that might be like what's going on right now. You know what I mean? They're getting this where their grandpa might have went to church on Sunday and like got his fulfillment. You know what I mean? They're going out to the crowd and screaming, like saying "fuck you" to a cop. Which is, I'm like, if that's what you need to get through your life, man, like I don't dog it, you know. I see, and there's definitely like a need for the protest, but I don't know. I feel like we've already spent too much time on this, but I don't know. It's just weird, like the vibes that I got, like the mob mentality. It's kind of it made me respect musicians and comedians a lot more, because it's like that fucking whole mob of people. They're all like pissed, and like there's like an artist that will go up and just kind of like have like 200, 1,000, up to, you know, the bigger venues, thousands of people in one building, just like all focused on one thing and like one, I guess, universal goal, or they're just dancing or something like that, or just they're just trying to laugh, you know. So it's like this basic, almost like I feel like it's one of the oldest things that humans have, is like that sense of community, to where they're all together. And I don't know, even like laughing in like a giant room of people laughing together and a giant room of people like crying together. There's like something about that energy of just like everybody focusing on something that I feel like people don't really talk about. And if they do, I don't know any of those people, you know?
Yeah.
But so like, and I feel like the pandemic and all that really like plays into that. I mean, there's definitely people who live like a hermit lifestyle, which I respect. I respect that, but there's people that like need to be social and need to go out and feel like they're connected to a group. And I feel like even before the pandemic, it was like already running thin, you know, like a lot of people just didn't have hobbies, they didn't have like a sense of purpose or something like that. So it was kind of weird, and the civil unrest definitely didn't really help. So it's like all that bullshit just like piling up onto each other, just like the perfect storm for people to just spaz out and just go out and burn shit.
Yeah, you're very right about that. And I don't know. I just think like as an artist, you try to put like your feelings and emotions more into like what you're doing. And I don't know, the community part's really interesting because like people by nature are very social animals and we just want to be together, but at the same time there's like the fact that people also don't want to be like close to each other either. It's this very, and we're kind of in like an interesting period, especially with the pandemic,
Yeah.
because it's like, I don't know, there's still people going to like large public places like restaurants and stuff with masks on, you know, the masks are on, but just going to like these places and being like kind of clustered together, but not really speaking to like each other unless they're like in a group.
Yeah, like people
together.
go people watching, you know. I don't do it, but there's people that go people watching. I'm like, okay, so, you know, like just having that, like you need to go out and feel that.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, I don't know. I've gotten very accustomed just going on bike rides and like listening to music and not really like paying attention to the people unless it's a car or another bike.
Yeah.
Or, you know, paying attention to like things moving alongside me, but not so much like the people themselves.
Yeah, you're aware, but not so much. Because I was looking like there was some really weird shit of the word paying attention. And it was like whenever you pay attention to something, you're like, your attention is currency. And you're like paying your attention to that. So there was like this really weird stuff about like, you know, if you don't want to like fully like immerse yourself into something, just be aware of it, but don't pay attention to it, so to speak. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like some weird borderline Buddhist shit.
Yeah, well, because I don't know. Every time I go outside, I feel like the world's kind of messy. And not that I'm like blocking it out because I acknowledge it is messy. I know it's messy, but I also realize that in my small kind of place in the universe, I don't really have a power to change any of that.
Yeah.
I've sort of realized that during quarantine that like we don't really have a choice of like matters that are like way beyond us. What we have to do is just do the best to preserve
That we
peace
can,
within our like
community and stuff.
yeah, within our community and our circles and the people that we know.
Heck yeah. I want to talk a little bit about that because like you guys have like a pretty decent scene, I'd say. Like I don't know how much visual artists there are in like the New Jersey, New York, maybe in Philadelphia area, but I feel like there's like a good community of people. So I don't know. I don't know if you're aware of that, but like, is there any plans for that scene? Because I feel like there's strength in numbers. You know, you could have like, you could be working on something by yourself or with just 2 people. But if you have a group of 7 people, a group of 10 people, that's a whole production team, you know, and you could create some really high quality content with more help and stuff like that. So I don't know if there's any plans on that to, I know you are working collaboratively with a lot of the projects that you're doing now, but is there like a plan for like, who is Slim Reaper? Is that a collective, right?
Slim Reaper's one dude.
Well, who's the collective that, there's like a collective in that group chat. It's like Window Works or some shit. That might be one dude as well.
That's one dude as well.
Yeah, but I think there's like one per collective. They might not even be in that group chat, honestly, but on Instagram, and they're like, they work together, you know what I mean? So, but they
Stranger Liquids?
I know of them, but that's not the person I was thinking of. And there's some Nashville.
Molten House
Media.
Yes, yeah. Molten House Media.
Yeah.
That's Slim Reaper, Astral Violet, Snake Chimes, and I think I'm a member of that.
Yeah. So, but I'm thinking like more of. I'd
have to check their website.
Yeah, see if they credit you on a.
Well, I was on there, but
true.
May have changed. I haven't really been active in
Yeah, I feel that. But how about like in this like New York kind of area, is there any like plans on like maybe trying to create something like that, like your own audio visual scene, so to speak?
Well,
or is
there's
that
like
happening subconsciously either way?
there's like 20 of us out here, or more.
Damn, that's a lot more than I thought. So yeah, y'all definitely
I've been
got a scene
counting the
pumping.
numbers in my head and on my hands, and
on your
Yeah.
toes.
The only thing is everybody's sort of like, everyone kind of runs in different social circles
Yeah.
and is very split up on what they want to do as a visual artist. Like, I just know some guys really like working on their own and by themselves.
Yeah.
Other people are working in groups. You know, everyone's sort of just like doing their own separate things right now.
Yeah.
I think when quarantine kind of ends, if that ever really happens, and music venues are back and open again, I think a visual scene will form more like will have more
Naturally.
yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be more natural
Authentic and stuff, and just
and we'll be able to do it like in a larger space as well, because they're
Yeah.
gonna want, I already see what's gonna happen is the moment like music venues are given that okay, it's gonna be like all hands on deck.
I hope so, man, because I really like. There were some people that I was talking to, and they were like afraid, like that, like bars are packed. Like, oh shit, that bar was packed. And I'm like, man, I go to a bar whenever it's packed. I love it. You know what I mean? Like, heck yeah, there's a bunch of people here. But I guess people worried about catching a disease.
Yeah.
That's like portrayed to be so deadly whenever you're in a large group of people. Then it really kind of like sways them from wanting to do that. But I really feel like, I hope that in the near future that they let the venues open up and it kind of becomes all hands on deck and they just go full throttle. And because there was a few music venues in Lexington that had to shut down just because they couldn't stay open. They're like, fuck, like I don't know how long this is gonna last. We're just gonna take our money while we're not completely bankrupt and get out of here. So I was like, fuck, and it was some of the DIY stuff. So it's kind of like closing the gap between like a DIY musician and then like an industry like headliner or something like that. Because like I don't know how it is here, how many like DIY venues you guys have that will actually like book local or like smaller touring artists visually, musically, or whatever. But I feel like this pandemic, it might make it a little harder for some of the music venues to like actually stay open or get like smaller acts. They're not going to want to do it. They're like, why are we going to get this small act if we can just book this guy that his agent has been calling us ever since this started, telling us like, let us know whenever that you guys open back up because everybody's fucking closed. They have like 300 capacity limits, and shit like that. So there's no reason to really go play those big theaters and stuff like that if you can't even fill them all the way. So might as well go back to the bars and the clubs, and then it's like kind of pushes out the people that are like kind of trying to crawl up the hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point you make. Thing I've noticed though is that up here, especially in Brooklyn, all the smaller bands, kind of the bands the venues want to have playing a lot.
Dude, that's
of the time.
awesome. See, I like to hear that about Brooklyn. That's awesome.
We've got a lot of really solid little like independent acts who maybe don't even have like a record label yet.
Yeah.
Some of them don't. And it's great. Some of them are just doing like DIY releasing,
Yeah.
Through their own label. Some
Any-
aren't
any
even worried
names-
about releasing
Any names
music.
of labels that you want to drop?
Not labels that I want to drop, but lots of
Bands?
bands I want to drop.
Yeah, shout them out, dude. I'll check them out.
We got Ghost Funk Orchestra,
Heck yeah.
the Red Room from New
Yeah,
Jersey.
Yeah.
We've got Avolfo. I gotta think of there's too many.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
Flaccid, Smock, Max Payne and the Groovies.
Yeah.
Ash Jesus.
heck yeah.
Wow. I'm trying to like dig. Nil Osiris.
Nil
Nil Osiris, you're awesome. Goon's a band from LA. I don't know if Goon will ever hear this, but if you hear this, Goon, it was good doing
Shouts
visuals
out
for
to you, Goon. You big goof.
There's just, it's so cool how many bands I've gotten to work with too, and
Yeah.
like the varying like musical like, I don't know, it's just everyone's got great musicianship. Every musician I think I've worked with has been just like solid.
Yeah.
And like they know their stuff and they totally understand like that like kind of compartment of rock and roll, or
Kind of DIY aspect to it that like we're gonna have to get a van and book these shows or some shit like
but
that.
also they're like genre, like they totally know what genre they are, and like
they have a sense of direction, I
they
guess.
they have a sense of direction. But the way like a lot of the bands overlap too, all these different genres kind of starting to like pile together.
Yeah.
Got like jazz bands playing with like heavy like psych rock bands
That's
who are making
awesome.
like wah noises.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
awesome. I
crazy.
love to go to those kind of bill or go see those kind of bills because it's like you get a whole musical repertoire that you get to experience. It's not just like you're going to a jazz night at a club or you're going to listen to blues or something. You get to actually go out and be like, oh, this guy, this is how he wants to make music, and this is how this woman likes to play her songs. So it's like it's really like you get to experience a lot more diversity in some of these smaller music venues because they're just like they're crowdsourcing the stuff. They're booking people that are just emailing them whatever. So I feel like there's a lot of diversity that's going around in smaller music venues.
I found a crazy band. I almost had the name. I'll tell you the name later when I figure it out. It's I'm gonna figure out the name.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to talk about a little bit like how did it go? I probably should have mentioned this earlier before we go into our last segment and wrap up. But like, how did it go about? Because I know some people they'll be like, I want to be an artist, and they're like, I guess I should go to art school. And I sat there one day and I thought about it, and I was like, imagine paying somebody to like teach you how to like do what you do, like paying like $100,000 to teach somebody to like do what you do. I feel like that's I don't know. I kind of laughed and I was like, 'cause for a while I was like, man, I'd love to go to fucking art school, blah blah blah, study something weird and stupid that I'd never be able to use in real life. But I don't know. What do you think about that? Like for artists out there that might be trying to pursue, doing animation, that might be trying to pursue claymation or making music videos for bands and stuff like that. Like, what do you think is like the avenue for them to do it right? Because I feel like there's also like there's a social pressure for like younger people, like, oh, you're not going to college, like, what are you going to do? Blah blah blah. And it was like, maybe how did that play out for you? And then what would you recommend smaller artists that are, still just trying, like, should I go to art school? Should I try to get a talent agency to sign me? Should I send out my portfolio to people? Like, what do you think people should do, in your opinion, to just kind of do it the most grassroots way possible?
So what I did was I almost went to film school. I didn't go because it was too expensive. I went to community college for 2 years, and during that time I started doing claymation, and eventually I realized I just needed to switch straight to claymation because otherwise, like, I wouldn't be able to do art. I wouldn't be able to really focus on like
And
my artistic
how did that like
pursuits.
play out with your family or maybe even socially amongst your friends, like telling people like, guys, I'm gonna start pursuing claymation? Because what I say is like nobody likes to push a wagon up a hill, but whenever that wagon's at the top of the hill, everybody wants to fucking hop in and take a ride down it. So it's kind of that aspect, like um even like telling people like, oh, I'm doing a podcast, blah blah blah. They're like, yeah, that's cool, but like what else are you doing? I'm like, yeah, don't worry about that. Like I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to make some content. And it's like people aren't really, maybe in this city they're probably taking it a lot more seriously, but there's like a lot of people that don't even think that that's like a realm out there. In some of the places that I've been, they're like, oh, you don't have a trade, like you're not an electrician, like
Oh, they look
what
at me like I have two heads.
yeah, that's what I'm
They're
saying.
like,
So like socially,
like claymation. They're like, what are you talking about?
yeah, but then they'd go
That's a
fucking.
thing?
They went and saw Wallace and Gromit with their whole family, but that doesn't even register in their head,
Well, because there's such a dissociation between different forms of media like that. Like if it's someone making it, you kind of discredit them right away. I don't know.
Yeah, I've personally
not
experienced
not
that.
something like I personally have done, but I'm the same way.
I've probably done that to
experienced.
people too, honestly.
I try not to. If someone's like, I have an art I like, I'm like, go you.
Yeah, see, I get really
Go.
excited. I'm like, oh
Do
yeah,
it.
you're creating, because I feel like
Keep going.
humans, like we're here to like create shit. You know what I mean? Like we can literally create worlds around us virtually. Like if you want to go learn how to code and create games and stuff, you could go build stuff and build houses and build
Code
architecture.
visuals.
Yeah, you could do that. You know what I mean? Digital renderings and stuff like that. So it's like I really feel like humans should create as much as possible, whatever it is. But that's probably like a fair statement that they thought you had two heads whenever you're saying you're doing claymation.
Oh yeah,
But
they just were like, I don't know. My friends always thought it was so like ridiculous that I like, because I got into this habit. I don't say it's a proud habit, but I got into a habit where like if my friends wanted to hang out, they had to hang out with me and the claymation.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't just hang out with me.
Yeah.
It kind of transitioned over to visuals a little bit like that. It's like you couldn't hang out with just me. You sort of have to hang out with the visuals as well. They're like it becomes an extension of you. It becomes something where it's like you just like, I don't know, you need to have it just there. Not even to like socially communicate, because I still just talk about other things with them, but just so there's something to sort of look at and that everyone can kind of be involved in. That's the thing I love about visuals, is because you could set that stuff up in your like living room and invite friends over. I mean, not right now because COVID.
Yeah.
But
don't gather in groups of people.
Don't gather in groups of people. You're gonna get sick. Don't spread the disease, please. But yeah, you know, and you just set it up in your room and you have some friends over and you just like, everyone can kind of be involved. Like someone sticks their hand in there and they see the camera, like everyone flips out about that. Have you seen that? How people just like, they're like, what is this? What?
Towards like, there were some shows where we'd go and we'd pan into the crowd and some dude would be like fist pumping or like going fucking rock on, and like I'd zoom into his hand and that'd be like on the screen being projected onto the band that's playing, and he'd be like, look back, he's like, oh shit, that's my hand. Like it's like super fucking hype. And he's like, my hand is the visuals right now.
My hand is
and he came up to me afterwards. He's like, dude, that was awesome. He's like, I was like doing that, and I like looked, and he was kind of drunk, and it just like blew his mind. I was like, like it was pretty fulfilling to like see that and have people like just enjoy that, you know, like make their experience, you know, that much better.
I did this one thing at a show once where I didn't show the stage feed for the whole entire set, and then during the last band I just switched to it, and then everyone's like, what? What?
Just switch to it and start like panning through the crowd, and they're like, oh, that's
switch to it, start zooming in on like the drummer, and like the drummer's behind the drummer, and he's like trailing off into like space.
See, I've been trying to accomplish a kind of a live chroma keying or live keying type visual patch without like actually having a green screen. So pretty much like I was experimenting with, let's say you have a live band and you get that, and then you try to key out everything to where it's just the band, and then try to use that for the live footage to where you're pretty much like, I could get them and then put them in like a different, like a cartoon sphere. You know what I mean? It looks like they're in a cartoon.
Yeah.
And that's like overlaid on top of the band. But the hardest thing that I kind of ran into was just the music venue lighting wasn't always the best for chroma keying. You know what I mean? So it was just like, there were some patches that I'd like nail it down perfectly and routed all the mixtures properly to where I was like, okay, this is perfect.
Dude, did they ever put too much red on your visuals and like?
I think.
Have you ever had that happen where like the stage tech just like keeps putting the like lights up all the way and it's just like washing out your visuals?
Yeah, dude. I said this a while back. Like I want to go around to music venues and just break all of their DMX lights and DMX controllers, and then come back like a week later and be like, hey, y'all need a visual artist, you know? But it's like, because they'll go and they'll buy these trusses and a DMX controller and DMX lights. Like, oh, we can make strobing green and red lights. But it's like, that's like old and boring now at this point. Every time I see that, I just think of like boomer karaoke parties, you know, with like the fucking spinny lights. And they're just
that's why a lot of the venues I like to work with are the ones that are like gung ho about it. There's like, I have like 4 venues I've worked at that are all like, yes, like visuals all the way, like turn the stage lights off.
Yeah.
Fuck the stage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like we need to have this like painting the band essentially. Like that's how I like to approach it. I like when it's just a massive thing that's on the band, really. And it doesn't even really like if there's a screen, it's great if some of it gets on the screen.
Yeah.
If there's no screen, I've done that too, where it's just like
the whole thing is like getting immersed. I saw some
like
art
the
installations that were
band.
kind of like that. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you know who Jack White is?
I've heard of Jack White, but
The
I
White
don't-
Stripes, Seven Nation Army. That was
Oh
like,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So
yes,
he had this
yes.
visual setup where he had like an oscilloscope in the middle of his stage, and it was like he didn't have any lights. He only had blue lights. It was like a blue tour, and he would just set the lights to like a blue, and then had this one like giant CRT TV oscilloscope in the middle of the stage, and it would like vibrate to either his guitar or his voice or something, and that like that was like a minimalist visual show to me. Like growing up and like looking at that, being kind of into digital electronics and digital engineering, I'm like, oh, that's a oscilloscope right there, you know. And he's like a nut on like analog gear and stuff, and he'll have like DIY stuff that he like gets built and builds and stuff. So I don't know. I was looking into that. Like, have you ever seen any like minimalist art installations that have like slight visual aspects into them that have like really influenced you, or like maybe even you're thinking about doing? Kind of like I know like TV walls are getting big and stuff like that, or anything that's more like a static art installation opposed to like a music video or a live performance or something.
Yeah, I've wanted to do that stuff. I did one on New Year's for like a little art venue out in New Jersey, which was
Yeah.
cool. And I just like glitched their logo all night,
Heck
pretty
yeah.
much. And then I'd bring up visuals occasionally, and it looked cool. People
Yeah.
were like, "Oh, this is interesting." Um, but yeah, I've wanted to do more of that. I wanted to do a lot more just like experimental art installation stuff. I really like the people that are doing like just a mannequin, just blank mannequin against a white backdrop and projecting
Yeah.
on it and
Like
stuff.
projection mapping and stuff like that.
And then having like little CRTs stacked up next to it and
Mhm.
stuff. I want to make a giant TV wall one day. That's
Dude,
my real
yeah,
goal.
that's. I was just about to say that LED walls are the way to go, I think, but they're just like, I think they sell like 5x5 panels or something like that, and then you have to have like the giant frame to like put them all in and stuff. But I've definitely in the future I want to invest in like a giant LED wall, kind of like music or kind of like giant music festivals have, but on a smaller scale. I know even like George Clanton has his LED curtain and stuff. I want to, before we wrap up, I want to bring up that article if Dylan can do that for us, and then talk about whatever this is. My producer John, he's not here because he has a job, but he sent me this and I haven't checked it out. So this is usually our segment that I call the conspiracy of the week. All right, let's see what this is. The top map shows mysterious cases of people vanishing without a trace. The bottom map shows America's largest cave system. What was the? Can you go up, please? Is this just a coincidence? Question mark. Yeah, let's go down and see that. So, what do you think?
Wait, what?
Yeah, lizard people, maybe?
Okay.
Oh, satanic pedophiles.
No,
energy
okay.
vampires. And
We got three options of what this could be. You've either got one, some sort of like freaky cannibal cult that lives underground.
Lizard people, dude.
Two, the government has like sleeper agents who are like snatching specific people.
And sending them to Jeffrey Epstein's island. They're just like a tube that's just like, boom, and they
Oh
just
my
go
god,
straight to
just
the
like
island.
a
It's just an Elon Musk tube that just goes, boom.
it's like the
Straight
it's like
to
the
the fucking
tube in I think it's
Jetsons?
Incredibles.
Yeah, you literally, yeah, exactly. And they're in a fucking, oh my god, they're on a fucking altar or some shit, or in a laboratory. Because that's weird. I mean, what do you think? Like,
Oh, and option three, yes, some sort of like underground, like humanoid, reptilian, like hybrid creatures. Not necessarily lizard men,
yeah,
but like
something
I
that's just
don't
been
know.
living underground and has evolved to
Or-
live underground.
Or this is even more terrifying because I was reading about this recently, and like I'd have to go fact check it exactly, but prehistoric times,
Yeah.
in the ocean there lived giant underwater insects and arachnids.
Ooh.
And
Dude,
here's
wait, whoa, pause, bro, pause.
they were
Are
seven.
you talking about giant underwater spiders? And
Yes,
you can't step on them because you're fucking in the water?
and they had like thick armor, and they were fucking huge. Yeah, no, they're huge monsters.
Dude, imagine being like a fucking pirate and you're like playing a fucking, I don't know, whatever that thing is called. Accordion, and just a giant spider just comes up and fucks you guys up.
The
Like,
biggest one is like 7 feet long. Well, it
What?
was.
they find like its remains or
Yeah,
something?
they find their fossils.
Damn.
But
So-
so that could also be it,
Just some giant insect that's like, oh, that's food.
or
And you're like-
arachnid.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that almost makes the most sense. It's got to be something that's almost like, think about this.
More natural than like occult and conspiratorial.
In human nature, we have been predators of smaller creatures. Those smaller creatures are predators of smaller creatures.
Yeah.
The only thing is, this whole time that we've existed, there hasn't been a predator for us.
I mean, there kind of has, but we just invented guns.
I mean,
Started
not
shooting them.
really. They're
Yeah,
really,
you're right.
like-
You're right. It's not like there was like some tigers that went to like India and like would like steal people out of like tents whenever they were hungry, but it was like we were pretty much on top of the food chain. You're right.
yeah, and like that's just poor location like scouting. Whoever went to that location didn't check if there were tigers living nearby.
What is it? You got to light their tail on fire, dude.
Don't light the tiger's tail on fire.
Well, if they're
That's just
fucking you
asking
up,
for
dude,
trouble.
what's Mowgli, man? Mowgli fucked Shere Khan up, dude.
Just by lighting his tail on fire?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wasn't
shit.
that the Jungle Book? He's like, yo, man, quit fucking with me and just.
Which Jungle Book is this? Is this the Disney Jungle Book?
I
or
don't
the-
know, dude.
The live action Jungle.
I don't
mean,
think
there's-
I've seen the live.
There's been 2 live action.
Has
Jungle
there
Books.
really?
One of them's really dark, and it's called Mowgli. and
Yeah,
the other
I've
one's,
watched Mowgli.
The other one's more brighter, and
It's
it's
called The
just
Jungle
called The
Book.
Jungle Book.
Yeah, dude. When are they
One's
gonna
got
make a
Bill Murray's
Tailspin
voice
live
in it.
action, dude?
Oh my god, Tailspin.
A Tailspin live action would be awesome.
I don't think that.
Just
I don't
Baloo
think
just
it's ever gonna
crashing
happen.
airplanes. No, we gotta crowdfund this shit and crowdsource it. Well, I mean, I guess that wraps up our conspiracy of the week, and that wraps up this show. I don't know. It might be lizard people. It might be like governments stealing people. It might just be those cave systems where people go spelunking and they go cave diving and they just fucking fall down because they don't set up their lines properly or
Yeah,
something.
except the
So-
thing is why is it?
Yeah, they're going
Wait,
missing. It's not like
Can
they're not
Can
all.
I see that map one more time?
Yeah, let's see if we can pull up the.
Wait look at where
It's
all of it is
oddly-
though.
Yeah, you're right. It's oddly.
It's in like
It's right where I fucking live in Kentucky. That has one of the largest cave systems, dude.
it's in populated areas though.
Hmm.
The disappearances are all in like super populated like
Dude,
places.
I mean, you know about like dumbs and like the underground bases that will like interconnect amongst like different different cities, and like the theory that there's like a giant grid underneath that like rich people can just go from fucking one side
That's
of America
freaky.
straight to the other side of America. And,
Rich
like,
people are just like stealing people and using them as like maids. and stuff.
adrenochrome, maybe. I don't know. You have you heard about that stuff?
Oh, I haven't heard of that. What is that?
Well, adrenochrome is like the theory that like there's like
no.
these interdimensional vampires.
Oh,
or,
God.
or psychic vampires. Yeah,
We're talking
but,
about
like,
cosmic horror today. now.
yeah, it's that like feed off of energy, and I guess that's like that they gave a name for adrenochrome or whatever it is. But that's probably for a different episode, because I
Yeah.
don't want to get into that right now. All right, guys, if you're watching thus far, I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We're going to be doing some more content. I'll probably have the other podcast up. I don't know which one's going to go up first. But appreciate you guys watching this. This has been the Linux Clinic podcast with Spaghetti Jesus.
Shout out Slop Domes.
Shout out Slob Dylan. We
Shout
are
out Slop Domes.
out.